The wind, a jagged blade of midnight, carves through the border fence patrol zone at midnight, whipping dust and the forgotten promises of daylight into your eyes. You stand sentinel, a shadow among the deeper shadows, your silhouette etched against the faint, distant glow of a city that has long forgotten your name. The metallic scent of the chain link, cold and unforgiving, clings to the air, a constant reminder of the lines you now guard, the boundaries you once crossed with purpose, now merely observed from the wrong side. Your breath plumes, a transient ghost in the frigid expanse. Each patrol is a pilgrimage of penance, the rhythm of your worn boots on the barren earth a monotonous chant against the clamor of your own mind. You trace the rusted wires with your gaze, 1,000 tiny knots of steel, each one a memory of a loose thread, a question unanswered. It has been years since the badge was stripped, since the gavel fell with a final, crushing echo. Years since the press, like vultures, picked clean the bones of your reputation, leaving nothing but the skeletal remains of Marcus Thorne, the detective who broke. The image of the young investigative journalist, brilliant and fearless, flashes behind your eyes, a ghost that walks with you in this barren landscape, her story unfinished, her truth buried beneath a mountain of official dismissals and convenient lies. The case, once a searing brand on your career, is now a dull ache, a phantom limb you instinctively reach for. They called it a random act, a tragedy of circumstance. You knew better. You always knew better. The distant hum of an engine, an alien sound in this wilderness, pulls your focus from the fence line. Headlights, sharp and intrusive, cut through the inky black, growing steadily larger, approaching the patrol road. Your hand, calloused and quick, instinctively drops to the empty holster at your hip, a muscle memory that mocks your current station. You watch, unmoving, as a sleek, obsidian sedan, a predator out of place, glides to a silent halt a dozen yards from you. Its polished surface reflects the few stars brave enough to pierce the gloom, a stark contrast to the grit and grime of your existence. He moves with an easy confidence that speaks of power and privilege, his face obscured by the distance and the faint halo of the car's interior lights. He doesn't need to shout, his presence alone demands attention. You feel the familiar prickle of tension, a forgotten alertness stirring within you. This isn't a lost traveler. This isn't a routine check. Marcus Thorne, the voice carries, smooth and resonant, cutting through the wind's howl. It is a voice that commands, a voice that rarely takes no for an answer. You're a hard man to find. You remain silent, your eyes narrowed, assessing the stranger. He closes the distance between you with unhurried steps, his gaze unwavering. There's no aggression in his posture, only a quiet authority. When he stops, he's close enough for you to discern the sharp cut of his jaw, the expensive fabric of his coat, the glint of a watch beneath his cuff. Your face a mask carved from years of disappointment. The wind tugs at the collar of your worn jacket, but you stand firm, an immovable stone. My principal has a proposition, he says, cutting directly to the chase, his words crisp. A matter of unfinished business. A ghost that refuses to stay buried. Your jaw tightens. You know which ghost he speaks of, even before he utters the words. There is only one that has haunted you with such relentless fidelity. The journalist, he states, watching your reaction, a subtle shift in your posture, a flicker in your eyes. The one they called Amelia Vance. Her case, Marcus. It's resurfaced. And it's tied to something far larger than anyone ever dared to admit. The name hangs in the cold air, a sharp, unwelcome echo from a past you thought you had sealed away. Amelia Vance. The brilliant, relentless writer whose investigation into a prominent politician's early career had ended in a back alley, her notes scattered. Her life extinguished. The case that had been meticulously dismantled, attributed to a random mugging, despite your fervent objections, your logical deductions, your gut-wrenching certainty that something far more insidious was at play. The official narrative was always a convenient fiction. The stranger observes, his eyes holding yours, discerning the spark of recognition, the tremor of an old wound reopening. But the threads are now too tangled. Too visible. A prominent politician, poised on the cusp of a presidential campaign, finds old ghosts unwelcome. This isn't just about Amelia. This is about the very fabric of power, the hidden machinery of control. They need someone outside the system, he explains, gesturing vaguely towards the distant city, someone with nothing left to lose, and everything to gain. A surge of something long dormant, a mix of apprehension and a fierce, terrifying hope. Redemption. But with redemption comes danger, a return to the very world that broke you, a confrontation with enemies far more powerful than the ones you faced before. The official channels are compromised, he presses, sensing your internal struggle. They need a ghost to hunt a ghost. My principal believes you are that ghost, Marcus Thorne. The tension crackles, thick and undeniable. The electrifying jolt of a ghost returning, a specter from your own shadowed past, now courses through your veins. The chain-link barrier, a skeletal spine against the inky sky, stretches endlessly, a monument to division. Beyond it, the unseen hum of another world, another life. The stranger, a silhouette carved from the night, leans against the gleaming obsidian flank of the sleek car. His voice, a low current, slices through the wind's mournful song. Marcus Thorne. The one they found near the docks, all those years ago. Dismissed as a street mugging gone wrong. A muscle in your jaw tenses. The journalist. A name etched into the deeper strata of your memory, a case that had snagged at the edges of your career. A loose thread you'd never quite been allowed to pull. What about him, you ask, your voice a gravelly rasp, and used to such direct inquiry. His file has resurfaced. The stranger replies, his eyes, even in the faint light from the distant patrol tower, holding an unsettling intensity. And with it, questions. Questions that lead directly to the current presidential campaign. To a certain prominent politician. Properly. Not swept under the rug this time. You scoff, a dry, bitter sound. And you think I'm the one to do it? The man who couldn't even keep his own badge clean? The one they hung out to dry? The self-inflicted wounds of your past sting afresh, a phantom ache in your chest. The disgrace, the public spectacle, the quiet exile, they were your constant companions. Why drag them back into the light? Precisely, the stranger counters, unfazed. Because you have nothing left to lose. And everything to gain. A chance, Marcus. A chance to find the truth you were denied. Considerable. The protection, absolute. And your discretion, paramount. The offer hangs heavy, a poison chalice disguised as redemption. To step back into that world, the one you'd meticulously dismantled piece by piece, brick by brick. It felt like walking into a storm with nothing but a tattered umbrella. Yet, the word truth resonated, a forgotten bell tolling in the silent chambers of your mind. The journalist's face, a grainy photo from an old newspaper clipping, flickered behind your eyes. Random act? You'd never truly believed it. And what happens, you press, your gaze unwavering, if I say no? The stranger offers a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Then you remain here, Marcus Thorne. A ghost among ghosts. And the truth remains buried. But know this, it will find its way out eventually, with or without you. The question is, will you be the one to unearth it, or will you merely watch it rot? The choice, stark and unforgiving, was laid bare. To remain in this self-imposed purgatory, or to step into a crucible that might burn you to ash, but might also forge something new. You thought of the quiet nights, the endless solitude, the way the days bled into each other, devoid of purpose. The shame. The guilt. Show me, you finally say, the words tasting like rust and resolve. Show me what you have. The stranger nods, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. He retrieves a small, nondescript data drive from an inner pocket of his coat, its metallic surface reflecting the sparse light. Everything. And the new connections. The ones that tie a dead journalist to the very heart of the upcoming election. He places the drive into your palm. It's cool, weighty, a tiny repository of secrets. In the dim light of your isolated cabin, the only sound the crackle of a dying fire, you insert the drive into your old, battered laptop. The screen flickers to life, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. Folders open, spilling out a deluge of information, scanned documents, audio files, grainy surveillance footage, financial records. You find the journalist's original file first. A young man, ambitious, relentlessly curious. His last article, unfinished, detailed an investigation into shell corporations funneling money into a nascent political action committee, the same committee now backing the very politician the stranger mentioned. Subtle, disturbing connections. Then, a name. Buried deep in a police interview transcript from a witness who claimed to see nothing, a fleeting mention of a security consultant at a meeting the journalist had tried to infiltrate. A name you barely registered all those years ago. You cross-reference it with the newly added files. The same name now appears as a key campaign strategist for the prominent politician, listed on recent donor rosters, even attending high-profile fundraisers. Not just a consultant, but an architect of power. Your gaze travels from the old, faded photo of the journalist to the crisp, modern campaign photos of the politician, then to the smiling face of the security consultant, now strategist. The pieces begin to shift, to click into place with an unnerving precision. The fabric of justice, you realize with a sickening lurch, wasn't just torn. It was being systematically unraveled, thread by thread, right before your eyes. And you, Marcus Thorne, were now holding the loose end. The name, a forgotten whisper from a forgotten file, hums in your mind like a tuning fork struck against bone. It is the vibration of a possibility, a tremor in the earth beneath the layers of settled dust. Marcus, you feel the familiar pull, the old current reawakening. Redemption, a dangerous siren, beckons. Your destination is a ghost, a memory etched into the desolate landscape. You drive, the city lights blurring into a smeared watercolor behind you, until only the stark, unyielding blackness of the periphery remains. The wind, a cold, insistent hand, rattles the windows of your battered sedan. You park a discreet distance away, the engine cooling with a series of metallic groans, and step out into the biting air. Here, time stands still, or perhaps it merely cycles. The air thrums with the low, continuous drone of distant generators, a mechanical heartbeat in the vast emptiness. You remember the sterile efficiency of the initial investigation, the grids and markers, the meticulous collection of evidence that ultimately led nowhere. Your gaze sweeps across the terrain, not searching for a misplaced bullet casing or a forgotten footprint, but for a feeling, an echo. The ground is hard-packed earth and sparse, resilient scrub, scarred by the tracks of patrol vehicles. You kneel, running a gloved hand over the coarse soil. Nothing. Yet, a detail pricks at you. The way the light catches a particular patch of gravel, distinct from the surrounding earth, almost too uniform. The original report noted it as natural erosion, but now, under this renewed scrutiny, it feels arranged. A boundary within a boundary. You rise, shaking your head, the bitter taste of past failure sharp on your tongue. The physical scene yields no immediate answers, but it ignites a spark, a directed purpose. And if they were observing, they were documenting. Your next stop is a dimly lit establishment tucked away in a forgotten industrial district, a place where the scent of stale beer and desperation lingers in the air. The former patrol officer, a man whose career was cut short by a restructuring shortly after the journalist's murder, looks up from his glass as you approach. Let it lie. Why? You lean forward, your gaze unwavering. You were on duty that night. Your report was clean. But then you were transferred, then retired. Coincidence? He takes a slow, deliberate sip of his drink, the ice clinking against the glass like a tiny alarm. Some things are bigger than us, Marcus. Bigger than a badge. You start poking around that, you get burned. He shakes his head, a grimace twisting his lips. I don't know names, Marcus. High up. Powerful. Said they had eyes everywhere. Said the journalist found something about money moving through the zone, not just people. Told me to forget what I heard. Said if I didn't, my retirement wouldn't be so comfortable. The message is clear, a veiled threat delivered with the weight of experience. The patrol officer's words, vague as they are, confirm your growing suspicion, the journalist wasn't killed randomly. The security consultant named from the files, the patrol officer's hushed warning about new security contracts and money moving through the zone. You retrieve the journalist's personal effects, return to the files after the initial investigation. Among them, a worn copy of a book on borderland infrastructure, its pages dog-eared and annotated. It was dismissed as irrelevant, typical journalist research. But now, you see it differently. You flip through the pages, your fingers tracing the journalist's hurried scrawl in the margins. Most are factual notes, dates, figures. Coordinates. A code name? A company? The journalist had found the thread. And someone, powerful and unseen, had cut it. You hold the book, the cryptic clue burning in your hands, the weight of a larger conspiracy settling upon your shoulders. You are no longer just seeking redemption, you are unearthing a truth that powerful forces want desperately to keep buried. The word, Vanguard, hangs in the frigid air, a spectral whisper against the distant hum of the city. You feel its weight, a cold pebble dropped into the quiet pool of your thoughts. It is the sudden clarity, the sharp edge of a burgeoning connection. Vanguard. You turn the name over, a smooth, polished stone. It speaks of leadership, of being at the forefront. But in this context, it tastes of something more sinister, a hidden hand guiding unseen machinations. Back in the dim glow of your makeshift workspace, the laptop screen becomes a window into the digital labyrinth. The first threads emerge, thin and almost imperceptible, then thicken, weaving into a tapestry of influence. Vanguard Holdings. The name surfaces, solid and corporate, a financial behemoth with tendrils reaching into diverse sectors, logistics, resource management, even a nascent interest in land acquisition near strategic borders. You trace their public filings, their board members, their expansive portfolio. And then, the undeniable link, a significant, almost audacious, contribution to the current presidential campaign of the prominent politician, a sum that dwarfs other donations, a clear statement of vested interest. A quiet hum of revelation vibrates through you. The victim, the brilliant investigative journalist, had been digging into land deals, specifically those tied to future industrial development in underserved regions. Now, they sing with new meaning. The journalist wasn't just investigating land deals, they were investigating Vanguard's land deals. They were looking at the very parcel of land the coordinates had revealed, the barren stretch near the border. The journalist wasn't a random victim. You must go to the source, to the land itself. The coordinates beckon, a siren song of truth. Hidden beneath barren earth. You gather your sparse gear, a sturdy flashlight, a worn multi-tool, a small, reliable recorder. The air outside is a biting caress, sharp with the scent of distant pines and the metallic tang of coming rain. Your vehicle, a battered relic, grumbles to life, carrying you away from the city's fading lights. The drive is long, the roads increasingly desolate, giving way to unpaved tracks that churn dust into ghostly plumes behind you. Finally, the landscape flattens, stretching out beneath the vast, indifferent expanse of the night sky. You step out, the ground crunching beneath your boots. The air here is different, thinner, carrying the faint, acrid scent of dry earth and something else, something metallic and industrial, despite the supposed barrenness. You follow the precise coordinates, your internal compass guiding you across the uneven terrain. You scan the ground, looking for anything out of place, any sign of recent activity, any clue the journalist might have missed or found. Suddenly, a glint. A shard of something reflective catches your light near a cluster of thorny bushes. You kneel, pushing aside the brittle branches. It's a small, metallic casing, perhaps from a surveillance device, partially buried. As you reach for it, a sharp crack echoes through the night, the unmistakable report of a high-powered rifle. The bullet whizzes past your ear, a vicious wasp, kicking up a spray of dirt just inches from your hand. Instinct takes over. You drop, rolling behind the meager cover of a shallow ditch, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. Another shot rings out, closer this time, tearing through the air where your head had been moments before. They are good, patient. This isn't a warning shot. This is an execution attempt. You scramble deeper into the ditch, crawling low, using the sparse undulations of the land for cover. The metallic casing, forgotten, glints mockingly in the dirt. They are coming for you. You are exposed, vulnerable, miles from any help. The stakes have just been raised, etched in the stark reality of leaden fear. A biting wind, sharp as a honed blade, whips through the sparse, resilient scrub, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant, unseen industry. You are a solitary figure, a silhouette against the vast, indifferent canvas of the night, your breath pluming in white, fleeting ghosts before you. The multi-tool, cool and solid in your gloved hand, feels like an extension of your resolve. Your flashlight beam, a focused spear of light, cuts through the gloom, dancing over rusted fence posts and the occasional tumbleweed caught in the wire. This is a place of transit, of watchful eyes and hurried footsteps, yet tonight, it is eerily still, holding its breath for your arrival. You reach the precise spot indicated by the coordinates. It's an unremarkable patch of ground, just a few feet from the fence line, marked only by a slight depression in the earth, as if something heavy had once rested here, then been meticulously removed. The ground yields nothing but pebbles and hardened clay, until a glint of muted metal catches your eye. You extract it carefully. It's a small, tarnished medallion, no bigger than your thumbnail, etched with a stylized hawk, its wings spread in predatory grace. A familiar design. This isn't just any emblem, it's the unofficial crest of a specialized surveillance unit, one you once worked alongside during your early days on the force, a lifetime ago. The medallion is old, its edges worn smooth, but the hawk is unmistakable. You remember the operations chief, a meticulous man who insisted his team carry these, a superstitious quirk, he'd called it, for good luck on covert assignments. But this unit never operated this far out, never on border patrol, not in the public eye. Why would one of their medallions be here, at the site of the journalist's last known movement, the very coordinates that had been erased from official records? A memory surfaces, unbidden and unwelcome. A late-night debriefing, years ago, after a particularly brutal drug bust that went sideways. The operations chief had been present, his gaze inscrutable, his questions precise. You had made a crucial decision that night, a call to divert resources based on what you believed was solid intelligence from a confidential informant. That decision, you now realize with a jolt, had indirectly led to the loss of a key witness, an informant working for the journalist, a detail you had buried beneath layers of guilt and professional failure. Your fingers tighten around the medallion. Was it possible? He had always been the one to gently steer you away from certain lines of inquiry, to suggest alternative angles, always with the air of a seasoned mentor. You had dismissed it then as guidance, as the wisdom of experience. Now, it tasted like misdirection. You expand your search, your focus sharpened by this unsettling revelation. The ground here is too soft for natural erosion to be the sole sculptor. Someone worked this area. Your flashlight beam catches a faint outline, almost imperceptible against the dirt. You scrape away the top layer, revealing a small, waterproof container, no larger than a brick, expertly camouflaged beneath a thin layer of natural debris. Your fingers fumble slightly as you pry it open. Inside, nestled amongst desiccant packets, is a satellite phone and a small, encrypted data chip. The phone is powered down, but the chip, when you carefully extract it, feels significant, heavy with unspoken truths. You connect it to your own secure device, a relic from your past, designed for field analysis. The screen flickers, then loads a single, compressed file. They span the period leading up to and immediately following the journalist's disappearance. But the sender ID, an alphanumeric sequence, is linked to a secure network you recognize. It's the network used by the operations chief's covert unit. Loose ends tied. Informant handled. You were satisfied when you walked away from that case, disgraced, haunted by the unsolved murder, by the feeling that you had missed something vital. You had been misled. Deliberately. The personal connection is not just a link, it's a betrayal, a wound reopened with surgical precision. The operations chief, the man you respected, the man whose counsel you had sought, was not only involved but had actively orchestrated your downfall to cover his tracks. He knew you, Marcus. He knew how you thought, how you operated. And he used it against you. You look up from the glowing screen into the vast, indifferent night. The wind howls, a mournful lament. The border fence, a stark line against the horizon, suddenly feels like a cage, not just for those it seeks to keep out, but for you. The game, however, is far from over. The chain-link barrier, a dark serpent, stretches endlessly to your left and right, its diamond eyes glinting with a malevolent sheen under the harsh glare of a single, flickering floodlight. This desolation, this no man's land, is where shadows speak truths. Every rustle of dry leaves, every distant coyote's cry, is parsed, analyzed. The weight of the past presses against your shoulders, a phantom hand. But tonight, satisfaction is a luxury you cannot afford. Tonight, you seek not closure, but ignition. The air between you vibrates with unspoken accusations, with the ghosts of files long buried. You said. You had something, he hedges, his gaze avoiding yours, fixed instead on the glinting fence. Something about the old case. Speak it now, or face the storm that's coming. You take a deliberate step forward, closing the distance, the gravel crunching beneath your boots. He was digging. He found something the politician's campaign couldn't afford to have surface. You knew this, didn't you? You saw the reports. The internal memos that disappeared. The colleague flinches, a muscle twitching in his jaw. I just followed orders. It was too big, Marcus. Too many names. They said it was a dead end. To classify it as random? You saw the initial evidence. The specific coded message found in his apartment. Before it was lost. The one that spoke of Project Cerberus and the architect. Tell me what you know about the architect. His breath hitches. His eyes, wide with fear, finally meet yours, a desperate plea for understanding, for mercy. Project Cerberus. It's not a project. It's the name. The organization. The architect. That's the code name for the head. The man who runs it all. He's untouchable, Marcus. Digital. Encrypted. It detailed the transfers. The shell companies. The politician's campaign finance manager, a judge, 2 senators. All beneficiaries, all complicit. He was going to leak it. He tried to contact a major news outlet. His voice cracks, a dry leaf crumbling. The architect ordered it. The hit. The patrol zone. It was a diversion. To make it look like a border incident. A random act of violence. The words hang in the frigid air, coalescing into a horrifying tableau. The missing pieces of a decade-old puzzle snap into place, forming a picture of calculated brutality and far-reaching corruption. The bitter taste of satisfaction from your past failure turns to ash in your mouth, replaced by the burning certainty of truth. He had a dead man's switch. A contingency. If he missed his deadline to publish, if he went silent, the ledger would be released automatically. To a network of journalists, anonymously. It was set to trigger a month after his last contact. They found out, just days before it went live. That's why they had to act fast. Why the cover-up was so immediate, so brutal. A month. A month after the journalist's last contact. The timing slams into you with the force of a physical blow. You remember the date. The date you were deemed satisfied. The date you walked away, defeated. You had been so close, unknowingly, to the truth. The puzzle piece that you had missed, the one that had haunted your nights, now gleamed with a terrible light. The journalist's death had not been in vain. His final act, a digital ghost, was still out there, waiting. The personal cost? Irrelevant. Your badge, your reputation, your life, they are but small tolls on the path to justice. You are the architect of a reckoning. The past has caught up, and it demands its due. And you, Marcus Thorne, will be the one to deliver it. There is no turning back now. Only forward, into the heart of the storm. The realization, stark and unyielding, claws at the edges of your mind. A month. The precise span of 30 days since the journalist's last whisper into the ether, an echo you were too deafened by your own despair to hear. That date, branded into your memory as the day you surrendered, the day you walked away from a case you believed cold, now sears with the heat of betrayal. You were there, Marcus, unwittingly brushing shoulders with the nascent truth, a phantom limb of knowledge you felt but could not grasp. The air in your sparse lodging tightens, suddenly too thin to breathe. A low thrum vibrates through the floorboards, a subtle tremor that isn't the city's usual pulse. Your hand instinctively slides to the worn grip of the pistol tucked beneath your jacket, a familiar weight. The hum intensifies, a vehicle idling too close, too long. They know. The certainty settles in your gut, cold and sharp. Your cover, thin as a spider's silk, has frayed. You move, a predator now, not prey. No sirens, no flashing lights, just the quiet, professional menace of hunters. Your escape is a blur of muscle memory. Down the rickety fire escape, its metal groaning under your weight, onto the littered alleyway. The stench of stale refuse assaults you, but you barely register it. Your senses are honed, tracking the urban symphony, the distant wail of an ambulance, the rhythmic drip of a leaky pipe, the rustle of a scavenging rat. You reach the payphone, its plastic receiver slick with grime, a relic from a forgotten era. Your fingers, steady despite the adrenaline coursing through your veins, punch in a sequence of numbers you haven't used in years. A gruff voice answers, thick with sleep. It's Marcus. The architect. He's not happy you're digging into the border contracts. The journalist, he had a lead on him. And he doesn't like witnesses. The architect. A new piece, solid and heavy, slotting into the emerging picture. A constructor of deceit, not buildings. Where do I go? You don't. Not yet. I got a message for you. From her. The journalist. She left a contingency, in case she went quiet. Said if you ever came back to the case, you'd know what to do. His voice grows urgent. She talked about a dead drop. The border fence. The journalist's final, desperate attempt to expose the truth. You hang up, the receiver clattering against its cradle. No time for questions, only action. The sergeant's warning about the architect confirms your new status, a hunted man. You abandon the stolen car, its engine still warm, at a deserted industrial complex. From there, it's afoot, blending into the ebb and flow of shift workers, then into the deeper isolation of the city's outskirts. Each rustle of leaves, each distant siren, tightens the knot in your stomach. You reach the designated area just as the city lights dim in the far distance, replaced by the stark, unforgiving illumination of floodlights lining the fence. The wind whips through the sparse scrubland, carrying with it the mournful howl of a coyote. Your eyes scan the landscape, searching for the anomaly, the misplaced stone, the glint of metal that isn't part of the fence itself. It's crude, hidden in plain sight. Inside, wrapped in oilskin, is a small, leather-bound journal. Its pages are filled with the journalist's familiar, precise script, but it's not just notes. Tucked within its folds is a single, grainy photograph. The background is a blur, but the location seems to be a private jet, its tail number just visible. Beneath the photo, a single line is scrawled in red ink, the architect's blueprint. The politician's ambition. Phase 1, the Southern Pipeline. Southern Pipeline. Not oil. Not gas. The journalist wasn't just investigating money laundering, he was uncovering a vast network, a human pipeline, perhaps, or something equally illicit, flowing across this very border. And the politician, the man running for the highest office, was not just involved, but a crucial component. A sudden flash of light, blinding and immediate, erupts from behind you. The roar of an engine splits the night. You drop, rolling instinctively as bullets tear through the air where you stood moments before. The journal, clutched in your hand, becomes a talisman against the onslaught. A black SUV, identical to the one outside your lodging, screeches to a halt, its high beams pinning you against the fence. Figures spill out, their silhouettes stark against the glare. Thorne. Drop it, a voice bellows, amplified and distorted. You scramble, the journal pressed to your chest, shards of concrete and dirt spraying around you. They know you have it. This wasn't just a dead drop, it was bait. They were waiting. The truth, now in your possession, has made you an even greater target. The chase is not just heightened, it is now a desperate sprint for survival. The dread, a cold knot in your stomach, tightens its grip. Southern Pipeline. The words echo, not as an industrial conduit, but a grotesque vein, pulsing with stolen lives. The journalist, her ghost a constant companion, hadn't merely scratched at the surface of financial malfeasance, he had plunged into the abyss of a human current, flowing unseen, unheard, across the very border you now obsessively trace on the crumpled map spread across your worn table. This politician, his polished smile a mask, his campaign a gilded cage, was not just benefiting from laundered funds. He was the architect, the beneficiary, the silent conductor of this horrific symphony. Your fingers, stained with ink from old files, trace the faint, almost invisible, lines of the border on the map. The air in your sparse room is heavy with the scent of stale coffee and desperation. Cargo manifests. Irregular nocturnal movements. Ghost convoys. They were not fantasies. They were breadcrumbs, deliberately scattered, then deliberately swept away. The package had no return address, only a single, typed word, for Marcus. A final message from a forgotten ally, perhaps, or a desperate plea from someone still trapped within the conspiracy's web. You plugged the drive into a burner laptop, the screen a stark beacon in the gloom. Each entry, a name, a date, a destination. Each a life, bought and sold, funneled through the southern pipeline. The network is vast, intricate, reaching from forgotten villages to opulent estates, disguised as legitimate transport and logistics operations. You see the politician's name, not explicitly, but through a series of coded transactions, shell companies registered under the names of his closest aides, and payments routed to accounts that directly fund his campaign. The journalist had documented it all, meticulously, bravely, sealing her own fate with every keystroke. Her murder was not a random act of violence, it was a surgical strike, silencing the truth about a monstrous enterprise that fueled a political ascent. This isn't just about justice for the journalist, it's about dismantling a system, a cruel machine powered by human misery and ambition. You close the laptop, the screen's reflection momentarily mirroring your grim resolve. The proof is in your hands, enough to shatter a reputation, to ignite a scandal that could bring down an empire. But simply releasing it won't be enough. They would discredit it, bury you. You consider your options, the weight of the drive heavy in your palm. A direct confrontation is suicide. A leak to the media would be intercepted. No, you need to use the evidence as bait, to present a threat so immediate, so undeniable, that the architect of this pipeline is compelled to react personally. You remember an obscure, coded meeting point mentioned in one of the journalist's early, discarded notes, a place where deliveries were sometimes initiated, a nexus point of the illicit flow. The note spoke of a specific time, a specific location, a place shrouded in the deepest night. Your gaze drifts back to the map, to the precise coordinates marked in faint pencil. You understand now. This is where the journalist was heading, perhaps to witness a delivery, to gather the final, irrefutable visual proof. And this is where they found her. A plan, reckless and dangerous, begins to coalesce. You will go there. It is a gamble, a desperate play, but it is the only way to lure the viper from its nest. You pack light, the burner laptop, a small, worn flashlight, and the one item you never part with, a framed photograph of your badge, a constant reminder of what you lost, and what you're fighting to reclaim. If you fall, the truth will still emerge. As the clock ticks towards the 11th hour, you move through the city, a phantom in the encroaching gloom. The final leg of your journey is on foot, the crunch of gravel beneath your boots the only sound. You walk with purpose, each step a declaration, each breath a prayer. The wind whips at your coat as you approach the desolate stretch. The tall, imposing steel fence rises like a jagged scar against the bruised canvas of the night sky. In the distance, the faint, rhythmic sweep of a patrol vehicle's lights. You set the bait, a signal, a whisper into the void that you are here, that you know. You are ready. You are waiting. You are the prey, yes, but you are also the hunter, and the trap is set. The mastermind will come. They have no choice. The air tastes of metallic dust and the distant, damp earth, a scent that clings to the fabric of your determination. Above, a sliver of moon, sharp as a forgotten blade, casts long, skeletal shadows from the fence posts, each segment a silent testament to division. You are a solitary figure, a whisper against the vast, indifferent landscape, your breath pluming in the frigid air, a visible manifestation of the fire that burns within you. The hum of the patrol's distant sweepers has faded, leaving only the low thrum of your own pulse in your ears. You scan the desolate expanse, your gaze piercing the gloom, seeking the telltale sign, the ripple in the fabric of the night. And then, it comes. It pulls to a stop 100 paces from where you are concealed, its engine dying to a soft sigh. Three figures emerge. His silhouette is sharp against the faint light, a predator surveying his domain. You step from the cover of the rusted container, your boots crunching softly on the frozen gravel, the sound amplified in the profound quiet. "Good evening." You call out, your voice cutting through the stillness, steady and unwavering despite the tremor that threatens to course through your veins. Or should I say, "Good midnight?" The mastermind's head snaps towards you, a flicker of surprise, quickly masked by a practiced calm. "Marcus Thorne," he says. His voice a silken rasp, devoid of emotion. A ghost from the past, inconveniently corporeal. He makes a dismissive gesture to his enforcers, who spread out, their hands already moving towards their concealed weapons. "No ghost," you counter, stepping further into the open. "The ones that move more than just cargo." He wasn't just a beneficiary, he was a willing participant, a conduit for your ambition, trading political favors for power, under the guise of mundane activity. One of the enforcers takes a step forward, his hand now resting on the grip of a weapon holstered at his hip. You ignore him, your focus locked on the mastermind, whose composure is beginning to fray at the edges. "The journalist uncovered it all," you continue, painting the picture with words, each stroke precise. "The true purpose of these logistics hubs, not just for goods. For the leverage, the blackmail, the quiet removal of obstacles." He found the connections between your seemingly legitimate businesses and the politician's inner circle, the key players in his campaign, all tied to this vast, intricate network. Now, the two enforcers move, swift and practiced. You anticipate their attack, having studied their patterns, their methods. He stumbles, giving you a precious second. You pivot, bringing your elbow up, connecting with the second enforcer's jaw as he closes in from your flank. The sharp crack echoes in the night. But they are professionals, hardened and relentless. The second, though dazed, is already regaining his footing, his hand now reaching for a pistol. You are outnumbered, outgunned, but not outmaneuvered. You think you can bury the truth here, you challenge, your voice ringing with defiance, even as you duck under a wild swing from the knife. "I've sent it all. The files, the ledgers, the coded communications. Everything. It's already out there, streaming across the networks, heading for every major news desk. The politician's career, your empire, they're crumbling, piece by piece." A gasp escapes the mastermind's lips, his cultivated calm shattering. The knife wielder feints, then lunges, but you are ready. You grab his wrist, twisting hard, hearing a grunt of pain as the blade clatters to the ground. You use his momentum against him, shoving him into the path of the second enforcer, who is raising his pistol. The two collide, a tangle of limbs and curses. Reaching into your inner coat pocket, you pull out a small, rugged satellite communicator, its single indicator light blinking green. "The journalist died exposing you," you shout, loud enough for the mastermind to hear over the scuffle of his men. "He died for justice. And tonight, you face it." You activate a pre-recorded message, a summary of your findings, a final, damning exposé, set to broadcast. The mastermind roars, a primal sound of fury and desperation. "Stop him," he screams, but it's too late. The enforcers, now untangled, turn their full, murderous attention to you, but the weight of your mission, the promise of redemption, steels your resolve. The fight has just begun, but the first, crucial battle for truth has been won. A second enforcer, a hulking shadow, lunges, a blunt instrument a blur in his gloved fist. The floodlights, harsh and unforgiving, carve your struggle into stark relief, painting long, dancing specters across the uneven ground. The mastermind, his cultivated calm shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces, watches from the periphery. His eyes, wide with disbelief and an impotent rage, dart between your relentless form and his faltering enforcers. He sees the game shift, the inevitable tide turning. You meet the charge of the second enforcer with a brutal elegance born of desperation and instinct. Your shoulder connects with his midsection, a jarring impact that steals his wind. As he stumbles, you pivot, a well-placed kick finding its mark behind his knee. He collapses with a grunt, his weapon skittering away to join the knife in the dust. The first enforcer, nursing his twisted wrist, eyes you with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. He knows this fight is lost. But the mastermind isn't done. He doesn't fight with fists or blades. Instead, he lunges, not at you, but towards a small, metallic device tucked into a pouch on his belt. A secure communicator, perhaps, or a trigger for something far more devastating. You anticipate the move, a primal surge of adrenaline propelling you forward. Your tackle is a desperate, full-body impact, sending you both sprawling. The device, a sleek, black rectangle, skitters across the gravel, just out of reach, its small, red indicator light winking mockingly. A distant wail pierces the night, growing louder, closer. Sirens. The cavalry. The detective, a grim silhouette against the rising dust, emerges from the inky blackness beyond the fence line, followed by a small, trusted team. Their flashlights cut through the gloom, painting the scene in stark, urgent strokes. Thorne, the detective acknowledges, his voice tight with a weary respect, his gaze sweeping over the subdued enforcers and the struggling mastermind. You push yourself up, your muscles screaming in protest, and retrieve the device. Its surface is warm beneath your fingers. As the detective's team moves in to secure the mastermind, you examine it. There's no obvious input, no screen, just a single, recessed button. You press it. A faint click. Nothing. Then, a tiny, almost invisible panel on its side springs open. Inside, nestled in a foam cutout, is a micro-SD card and a folded slip of paper. He was trying to destroy this, you state, holding up the paper. The detective takes it, his brow furrowed. He reads the single line of text, illuminated by a tactical light. The architect waits in the shadow of the Capitol. The senator's private server, encrypted. Key, solstice. What the hell is solstice? A date, you reply, your voice hoarse. Or a code word. But the architect and the senator's private server. It confirms everything. This goes higher than we thought, even beyond the presidential campaign. The mastermind, now cuffed and on his knees, glares at you, his face a mask of bitter defiance. You think this ends it? You've only cut a single head. The Hydra. It watches. The first faint blush of dawn paints the eastern sky, bleeding streaks of bruised purple and angry orange into the receding night. News vans, their satellite dishes raised like hungry antennae, rumble into view in the distance. The story will break with the sun. The politicians' carefully constructed edifice, built on lies and hidden agendas, will crumble. You stand by the imposing fence, the cold metal against your fingers, watching the horizon lighten. The adrenaline, which had been a roaring fire in your veins, now recedes, leaving behind an icy vacuum. The weight of it all descends, a crushing burden. The journalist's face flickers in your mind's eye, the intensity, the unwavering pursuit of truth. Was it worth it? This redemption, this truth, feels less like a triumphant roar and more like a weary sigh. The badge remains lost, a ghost of a life you can never reclaim. But your name, once dragged through the mud, will be cleared. The truth about the murder that defined your downfall, the intricate web of power and deceit, now lies exposed. The cost was everything you had left. Your peace, your certainty, perhaps even a part of your soul. The wind whips at your coat, carrying the metallic tang of the fence and the distant, mournful cry of a coyote. Below the harsh glare of a temporary floodlight, the mastermind, now a shrunken figure, was being guided by a federal agent towards a waiting transport. His earlier words, venomous and defiant, still echoed in the desolate air. You think this ends it? You've only cut a single head. The Hydra. It watches. It will remember this. But the power had indeed drained from them, leaving only the brittle husk of a promise unfulfilled. The silence that followed his departure was heavy, a blanket of weary triumph. You stood there, numb fingers tracing the cold metal of the fence, the mesh stretching into the ink-black distance like a scar across the earth. The hum of distant patrol vehicles was a low thrum against the vast emptiness, a mechanical heartbeat in the wild quiet. Your breath plumed in the frigid air, dissipating quickly, much like the phantom pains that had gripped your chest for so long. The federal marshal approached, his silhouette sharp against the artificial glow. He offered a simple, appreciative nod, his gaze holding a depth of understanding that transcended words. "Good work, Thorne," he murmured, his voice a low gravel against the wind's whisper. "You saw it through. Saw it through." The phrase hung in the air, weighted with years of regret, of gnawing uncertainty. The ghost of the investigative journalist, the one whose murder had shattered your world and stripped you of your badge, felt less substantial now. You remembered the initial dismissal, the facile explanations, the way the truth had been buried under layers of official convenience. Now, with the architect of that particular deceit bound and broken, a different kind of quiet settled within you. The Hydra, he had called it. A many-headed beast. This capture, monumental as it felt, was not an eradication. It was a severing, a critical blow to a single, dangerous branch. The roots of the conspiracy, tangled and deep, still burrowed beneath the surface, waiting for another head to sprout, another opportunity to poison the well of justice. The network of influence, the silent pacts made in hushed rooms, the threads pulled by unseen hands, these remained, diminished perhaps, but not destroyed. Yet, as you surveyed the desolate landscape, a sense of purpose, long lost, rekindled within you. The badge might be gone, your reputation irrevocably stained in the official records, but you had done something that mattered. You had pulled back a corner of the veil, exposing a fragment of the rot. You had given a voice to the forgotten, a measure of accountability to the untouchable. It wasn't perfect, this justice. It was a semblance, a hard-won victory in a war that would likely never truly end. But it was enough to quiet the relentless clamor of your past failures, to loosen the grip of the guilt that had been your constant companion. The journalist's story, once muffled by powerful hands, now breathed again, vindicated by your relentless pursuit. The federal marshal lingered, his gaze thoughtful. Other places where light is needed. Unofficial channels, of course. He didn't elaborate, but the implication hung heavy in the air, a potential new path opening before you, one free from the bureaucratic shackles that had once stifled your instincts. You didn't immediately respond, simply absorbing the weight of his offer, the unexpected flicker of a future beyond the wreckage of your old life. The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of dust and distant mesquite. The ghosts of your past, the ones that had haunted your every waking moment, were finally, truly, laid to rest. The failure that had defined you for so long now felt like a crucible, shaping you into something different, something perhaps more resilient. The Hydra might watch, but you, too, were watching, ready.